slap, punch, kick, bite. Domestic violence is a complicated problem with several different types of violence: sexual, physical, verbal, and emotional. There's no way to stop it, but there are ways to prevent it from reoccurring. In most cases, it's women and children being harmed, but in other cases, men are victims of these cases as well. I will be talking about women who go through this act of violence, and how there needs to be more of an awareness in our communities, and how to prevent the problem from happening again. Reasons why there should be more of an awareness to this act of violence is American Institute of Domestic Violence webpage states that 85 to 95% of domestic violence victims are female, and 5.3 million of the victims, or 5.3 million are women who are abused each year. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injuries to women, and they're more likely to be attacked by someone they know rather than strangers. So it's mostly domestic violence that cause them to get injured throughout the years. Teens and young adults are most likely to be most at risk for domestic violence, which is probably why I can name at least 5 of my friends who are going through this. And in most cases of domestic violence, it's men who do the act, and their common factors are they need to feel like the man, they're in charge of how money is spent, and control everything that goes on in this house. Some believe that they're entitled to sex from their partners, and it's mostly a power issue. Blame it on drinking or stress. BetterHelpChannel.com states that it's commonly assumed that domestic violence is caused by alcohol abuse. This isn't true. The perpetrator is sober in more than half of the domestic violence cases where the police are called in. Also, they take the blame off themselves and blame it on the victim. Say that you made me do it. This causes the victim to feel like it's their fault for provoking him, and it's never the victim's fault. Domestic violence is a repeating cycle that most women need help getting out of. The SafeSpace.org calls the cycle of violence. There are 3 phases to the cycle. The first one is the tension building, where there starts to get tense between the victim and the partner, and the partner starts yelling at the victim over senseless things. The victim feels like they can't do anything right and senses that anything is about to blow up. The second phase is explosion. It's an outburst of violence that includes intense emotional, verbal, sexual, or physical abuse. The abuser may physically harm the victim by slapping, kicking, or shoving against the wall, or other ways. The abuser can scream or yell at the victim, making her feel scared or humiliated. And the abuser can rape or force the victim to go further sexually than she wants to. Also, the abuser can threaten the victim. The third and final phase is the honeymoon. This is where the abuser will try anything to get the victim back. He'll apologize, say I love you, shift the blame off himself, buy gifts, blame stress or alcohol, or anything to get the victim back. And in most cases it works several times before the victim is fed up with the cycle. Another reason why we need to prevent this from happening is the children in the homes of domestic violent cases are affected even if they're not physically being harmed. When they witness their mothers being harmed, they feel helpless. They grow up thinking that it's okay and it's normal. Like Chris Brown getting said that his father abused his mother and he always saw that, so then he grew up hitting Rihanna. They suffer psychological problems in their adulthood, and they feel helpless. The main problem why most women are in abusive relationships or can't get out of them is because they don't report it to the police at the first time. to let themselves go through the cycle a few times before they are fed up and finally tell their friends, family, or law enforcement. The best way of dealing with domestic violence would be to leave the relationship or report any violence act to the police before it gets worse. For instance, in the movie Enough with Jennifer Lopez, she never reported the crime right away. She just kind of let it happen, and she thought it was her fault. And when she finally did try to contact the police, they didn't believe her because she made it so dramatic, which she waited till it got to the point where it was that dramatic. And also, her husband is into the police people, so it didn't really work for her. But if she had reported it right away, there would have been a record, and they would have moved faster to helping her. Also, you could, About.com says that there's an option if you choose to stay in the relationship, is if anytime there's a disagreement between the family or between the domestic situation, when you feel that it could get violent, do a nonverbal signal, and that could cause and then that way the people in the disagreement could either take time out or go in different rooms and relax, then continue the conversation, but they suggest not to use the middle finger for the nonverbal signal. In our communities, we can help. We can have a place where there's counseling for free or really cheap for people that don't have the means to get counseling. For our schools, for the children, there's programs like DARE and Eddie Eagle where it's like, stop, don't touch, leave the area, tell an adult. Like that's to prevent gun control and or to help gun control. And all those programs that came to our schools and told us about drug use and gun control, we still remember them, we know how to help. So if there was something like that for domestic violence, then the kids can know how to call the police or not get involved, but figure out ways to help their parents or mothers or whoever's being abused. Self-defense classes could be taught to women for cheap. Because I took a karate class and it was like hundreds of dollars. And a lot of people that are going through this situation, they can't afford to take karate classes, or kickboxing or whatever. So if there was like a self-defense class that just taught them the basic ways to get out of a situation, and at least far enough to get out and then go far enough to where there could be help, that would be really useful. People could say that how to define domestic violence. Is it like spanking your child or anything like that? I don't believe it would be that drastic. Just anything where the woman or the child or whomever is being physically harmed or other ways of abuse, that could be physical or that could be domestic violence. But spanking, that's just a disciplinary kind of the light hit. I mean, unless it goes too far, but yeah. Visual results. If we do all these things to help our community, the children will be happy, women will be safe, and they'll be better. We'll have a better community and better homes. Things that we can do: we can call the police if we hear our neighbors having any kind of conflict. If you hear next door there's like things like being slammed around or really loud arguing, you can call the police anonymously and try to get help and see what's going on there. I wouldn't suggest going over there and trying to save the girl, but you could do something that wouldn't be just sitting around and letting things happen to that neighbor of yours. If you notice any strange bruises on your friend, you could confront her and say, how did you get these? Even though she wouldn't want to say it right away, there are ways to get the information out, and then you can figure out a way to help her. Since abuse has a lot to do with power, if you help your friend, that will be power in numbers, or there will be, there's power in numbers. So if you help your friend who's being abused, the guy who's hurting her would